Will tofu cheese? Some people already say that tofu is like cheese. But I'm taking it further. What will it taste like? Will it be delicious? Will it be cursed? Should you absolutely try this at home? Let's find out. I've soaked a pound of dried soybeans overnight. Now they are plump and ready. Almost. I don't want any discolored beans contaminating the batch. We don't have to go nuts with quality control, just a quick once-over to pick out any obvious duds. Now we have 997 grams to work with. Plenty of protein to go into our soy milk, which, by the way, will have just as much protein as dairy milk, though less fat and less sugar. I've thought about mixing higher fat nuts and sugar to mimic dairy even closer, but I think that's an experiment for another day. Today is about finding out the pure flavors and qualities from just culturing soy tofu. Here I'm blending all the beans in a few batches, with about double their volume in water. And then into my soy milk filter bag, $3 at T&T Supermarket if you got one nearby. Otherwise, I got a different but very trusty one linked in the description. If you need one, you can buy it online. Just before straining though, I'm going to rinse out my blender jar. It's a lot easier to do this now before the soy milk dries on, trust me. Finally, it's time for the part I never ever complain about, separating the pulp from the soy milk. By the way, a lot of people seem to have a problem with using the word milk for anything else other than dairy milk, which is weird because calling any milky-looking liquid as milk has been a common convention in English for centuries. Think about it. Almond milk, been in use since the Middle Ages. Milk of magnesia, from the 1880s. Coconut milk, from the 15 or 1600s. Soybean milk or soy milk, from the late 1800s. It's tradition at this point. Speaking of tradition, fermented tofu actually already exists. This is fuyu. It's super salty, fermented, and some vegan cheesemakers actually incorporate it into recipes and say it tastes kind of cheesy, which I disagree with because to me it tastes like miso, but creamier and smoother, and you use it to season vegetables like pea tips, my favorite, or at congee. Or this red type is often used in Cantonese tassu, aka barbecue. I love it for tassu tofu. It's powerful though. Respect it. It starts out as hairy tofu. Yes, that fuzzy fermented tofu using a specific mold culture that I can't get in Canada, so I won't be making it this time. Instead, I'm going to inoculate our homemade soy milk with probiotics from the grocery store. But first, I gotta cook this milk. I've got my flat-sided spatula and thermometer to keep track of what's going on. And just because soy milk tends to stick to the bottom of the pot, you really gotta scrape the bottom as you're cooking. Right. I'm gonna take it to a boil. When it approaches, it is prone to bubble up, so I'm gonna be ready to lift the pot whenever, or turn off the heat, or both. We're starting pretty cold. It's 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius. I'm really watching it around 170, 180, because right after that is when it's going to start foaming. The danger point. Do you see it? At this point, I can turn it down a bit. It's on 9. It's on 8.5, which is like medium high. And then I should boil this for like 15 minutes. You do not have to remove this foam. I'm just doing it so that I can see what the surface is doing at all times. In traditional dairy cheese making, the cow's milk is basically body temperature when rennet, the traditional non-vegetarian coagulant, is added, along with specific cheese-making cultures of bacteria. Soy milk, however, will not curdle at such lower temperatures. It needs more. So just like in our previous pistachio cheese episode, I'm following the same plan, curdling first and then letting it cool before adding the probiotics, exploring the unknown, but with history as a guide. See how much it went down. So we probably lost a cup in volume. The milk has cooled down to just about 180 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect because once I mix this coagulant back up, because the gypsum has settled, and pour it in, the temperature should lower to just about like 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is the coagulation temperature for soy milk. So I'm just going to spin it a few times and then stop. And that motion kind of distributes the gypsum. 159 at the surface. It should still be hotter underneath, but I'm not going to disturb it to check. A probe thermometer would be more appropriate for this operation, but I just don't have one around. But I'm going to put a lid on this. Where's my lid? A lid on, and I'm still keeping it on the warm stove because I do want it to stay warm. I'm going to leave this alone for 15 minutes. It has been 15 minutes. And the curds, ooh. The curds look... This is not good. It is not completely coagulated. All right, well, I just need to heat this back up on medium heat. I need to bring it back up to 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the coagulant that's already in there should do the trick. Wow, I'm like humbled right now because this never happens to me. And we have like big bits of tofu skin that was cooked onto the bottom of the pot. That's not great. Whenever I see those little bitsies, I'm gonna take them out. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just like a different texture. I can see the whey's getting more clear. Guess it just wasn't hot enough when I left it here last. I had let it cool too much, maybe. All right, so right now we have like 170 degrees. I'm gonna turn off the heat now. And really, 15 minutes later, it really should be completely coagulated. It's been 15 minutes, and from now on, everything that touches these curds should be sterilized. The whey, nice and clear. Curds are nicely formed. Still have like these little leathery bits of curd that I don't love, but I'm not gonna go through and pick it. I don't want huge curds. I'm gonna break them up a little bit. My fear is just that curds are maybe too dense and the probiotics can't get through into the curds. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I just know in dairy cheese making, they make the curds rather small often, and they put the culture in first too. They usually don't curdle and then add the cultures, as far as I have seen on like, you know, YouTube. So I'm just cutting these curds a little bit so there's not like huge ones. Trying to anyways. And at this point, I'm going to let these curds and whey cool down to about 110, or actually, let's get it down to 100 degrees. And so being on this warm stove is probably not the place. Just going to put this on this towel. This stove can go away. I wonder if I should put it in a different pot so it will cool down faster. The other thing I'm wondering is if I should add some syrup, because soy milk doesn't have as much sugar as dairy milk. For this first initial soy tofu cheese test, we're just gonna do it like we have all the other ones. By all, I just mean the two that we've done so far in this series, peanuts and pistachio. You know, we should have done peas next to keep the pea theme going, but anyways, it's okay. I think I'm just gonna let this cool down naturally. It's gonna take quite a while though, because it's pretty hot. At least an hour, I'd say. So I'm just gonna, Oh, it's freaking cold. Oh no, come back inside. It's too cold for your little feetsies. Come on. Come on, buddy. Highly do not recommend going out in snow in your freaking sandals if you want to keep your toes. All right, let's see if this is cooled down enough. 119 degrees. 120. Maybe a few more minutes. Maybe some fresh snow. Oh my God, it's freaking cold out here, guys. Okay, it's getting there. We're at 109. Okay, it's cold enough. Let's go back inside. It's not humane out there. Blessed indoor heating. Highly do not recommend doing that without a jacket. Right. The side of the pot is still warm, so I think I can just leave it here while it does its thing. And then inside, 40 degrees Celsius, 101 degrees Fahrenheit, 102, 100. So we're just about 100. I'm going to break up this big curd here. Okay. Oh, I gotta wash my hands. And we're back for the most exciting part, well, of the day. I'm going to pop in 4 of these probiotic capsules. They're the same ones we used last time in the pistachio episode. They have 15 billion CFUs of various probiotics. I'll list them on the screen. They're obviously not for cheese making specifically. They are just probiotics I bought for myself. So they are made for humans. But in vegan cheese making, we have used this type of thing a lot. Just haven't tried it with soy curds for myself. I've looked online and it appears that some people have tried this before. There's some talk about how it's not that great. Maybe there's some funky flavors that we're not used to. But I want to see what we're actually working with as a baseline. And then from there, perhaps we can improve it by mixing in, say, higher fat ingredients like cashews or some sugar ingredients like corn syrup, the sugars from corn syrup in place of lactose. So this is my fourth one. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Did we do 3 or 4? I only see 3 empty capsules. I thought I was counting up to 4 though. Well, if this is the 4th one, it's the 4th one. If it's the 5th one, it's the 5th one. The temperature is 98 degrees. For the fermentation stage for both previous episodes, we just left it at room temperature, no insulation and no heat source. I think we're going to keep it the same way too. My mind. I put it in the dehydrator so it will keep like around 98 degrees. It's set for 96, but this, in my experience, this is actually usually keeps the air temperature in here a couple of degrees higher than the set temperature. So that's what we're doing. I'll check it later tonight. It's 7:24. And we're going to do a little check. Check it out. Looks the same. So let's take a piece of that. This piece of curd has got a little leathery bit to it, but that's fine. We're just going to taste it. Tastes slightly sour. Like ever so slightly. Interesting. All right, we're going to keep it back in here. Just keep it going. It's 9:15 a.m. and it's time to do our final taste test of the curds. I'm pretty sure it's going to be sour enough now. Oh, I can smell it right away. It's that kind of tangy fermented smell. Not a bad smell, just a bright smell. I've got my sterilized spoon, my collection of sterilized spoons. And what's interesting is the curds do they look kind of yellower to you? Let's give it a taste test. First, just like mostly the whey. Ooh, bright, lemony, puckery in the cheeks. A little less so than the pistachio and the peanut one after we did 48 hours at room temperature. But this is pretty close. So I think speeding up the fermentation in the dehydrator at the body temperature was helpful for this one. New spoon. Let's take the curds. Get this out of the way. So I want to feel the texture. Actually, let me use gloves because my hands are covered in paper cuts. I managed to get 2 paper cuts on this hand, and then I got an aluminum foil cut on this hand. So that's how my week has been going. How about you? Here's the curd. Squishy. It's a little bit softer than, well, I guess I don't usually pick up tofu curds and squish them between my fingers, but it's pretty soft. Let's taste. Yeah, it tastes like it's been coagulated with lemon. I mean, it's not fruity lemon, but you know, the sourness of lemon. That's actually quite interesting. I don't know if it's like, I love it. Let me add a little bit of salt. I'm gonna add a tiny bit of kosher salt. Oop, that seems like plenty. I mean, it tastes like really savory tofu. It's not so much cheese as it's tofu with some seasoning. Let's press it. I have my tofu press here that I always use. I just washed it in very, very hot water and then let it air dry, and then I sprayed it with white vinegar and I let it air dry again, but this time it's not completely dry. I think that's going to be okay though. I actually this morning thought I was going to use this press, which is my stainless steel press. It's from Inoculation, a little bit larger, and I wanted to use this because I could sanitize this whole thing just by immersing it in boiling water, which I did this morning and let it dry. But cheese makers typically don't use metal. You're going to see them using wood, other natural materials, brush, reed, and then also plastic because they're non-reactive. And metal can be reactive to acidic foods. So I think that's why typically you don't use them. So today, because we already introduced a few different variables, I feel like I'm going to save this for another time. One of those variables I haven't mentioned yet is this salt solution. What it was is just I boiled some hot water, I added scoop after scoop of salt. I think maybe there's 3/4 of a cup of salt in there. There's still some salt at the bottom that hasn't been dissolved yet. And that just shows you that the water is fully saturated with salt. That's like the maximum saturation. And then I'm going to grab one of my sterilized cheesecloths, which we've got a smaller cheesecloth. I don't know if this is going to work because it is a bit smaller. Anyways, I'm just going to soak it in the salt solution. And this is just going to be one more barrier between our tofu cheese and possible unwanted molds and fungi. There's mold or fungi and bacteria in the air around us. So it's like, no, we can't completely eliminate it from our cheese making practice. And I think we probably shouldn't expect to either, but we'll do our best. So let's get the curds over here and scoop them in. I don't know if they'll all fit in this press. So I'll fill it up to the top and we'll see. What I'm trying to do is make an extra large block. And then tomorrow, after it presses firm, maybe we'll cut it in half and then try 2 variations on it. I'm still reading all your comments from the pistachio cheese video. So thank you so much for taking the time and watching that one. I know it's very long. I think this one will be too. And all your suggestions. And I really want to use like almost all your suggestions, but it's just like, I have this feeling that I shouldn't change too many variables at once because then we don't know what's doing what. Or maybe we do, like collective we do, but I don't. And I feel like I can only trust what I see. I feel like maybe as a viewer, it might be kind of painstaking, like why don't you try this, why don't you try that? But the reason why is just I need to try only one, maybe 2 different things in an experiment. In fact, it pains me to try 2 things. I only want to try one different thing at a time. I've been watching a lot of cheese making vlogs, and it looks like in traditional cheese making, they are pressing most of the time like slowly at first, using the weight of the curds itself. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it like tofu because I'm not sure what the title of this video will be called. Will it be will tofu cheese or will soybeans cheese? Because I feel like if I name it will tofu cheese, then it's a little misleading because you're not going to take store-bought tofu and then try to inoculate that. We're going right from the bean. But we're making tofu. It's basically making tofu, except that only we've interrupted it by inoculating it with a bacterial culture. Good enough, I think. Lots of Milky Way. Actually, it's not milky, it should be clear whey. And I think we'll just do this without the lid first. And hopefully it will close. Yes, there is a lot of pressure going on there. What will the texture be? What will it taste like? Will the flavor develop? How should we treat it after it's pressed tomorrow? You'll find out in a second. The next morning, I could hardly wait. I learned my lesson from last time and emptied the whey into a new container. We'll use that soon. I'm going to add a bit of pressure by turning the knob here because I had about 15 minutes to wait for my tools to be steam sanitized. Finally, the moment of truth. Did the curds hold together? What will it taste like? Will there be discoloration like last time? Feeling pretty firm. No signs of discoloration. You can see that it's kind of crumbly on the edges. I feel like I should just clean it up a little bit. Before I forget, let's weigh this thing. 607 grams. But just with that, I already crumbled the edge. Don't love that, so it's really crumbly. I guess this is a great time to do a little taste test. It's just very sour tofu. The sourness is bright, not cheesy, not funky. There's no weirdness to it. It's just like you accidentally marinated it in lemon juice. Oh, wait, on the breath out, there's like a tea, like woodsy, almost bamboo. That's interesting. Let's go for a cut down the middle. Very firm, a little bit of crumble on the pull out. Feels like very firm tofu, except for the fact that the edges are crumbling. So I feel like the acidity of the whey caused the curds just to be more crumbly, or the fact that I broke up all the curds in the first place. I would like to repeat this, but without breaking up all the curds and actually having like fat curds. There's a little bit of color variation. I don't know if you can see because it's so subtle, but there's just like whiter tofu parts and like yellower tofu. And then of course you have those little bitsies of the leathery tofu skin, but no weird grays or pinks or, God forbid, greens. Today I'm going to try 2 different methods of salting. So first we're going to do one we've tried before, which is just crusting it with salt. I was thinking I'm going to use coarse kosher salt this time, not the fine, and then see if that just stops it from becoming overly salted. And then for the other one, I'm going to do a salt brine. However, a typical cheese-making salt brine is going to have calcium chloride added to it to prevent the calcium from leaching out of the cheese and into the brine. But I don't have that on hand. What I'm thinking is I'm going to use the leftover whey. I'm going to heat it up so that it can absorb more salt or dissolve more salt. But I'm only going to heat it to like around 100 degrees so that I don't kill the probiotics. And maybe that will just give extra protection against any unwanted microbials. So first, yes, let's just get on to heating the solution. I think I need a little bit more. So I'm going to go grab some from the fridge. This is yesterday's whey. That's probably enough, right? I think I'm just going to microwave it 30 seconds at a time until I get to the 100-degree mark, and I'll be right back. It took intervals of 30 seconds, and 15 seconds to get to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 40 degrees Celsius. All right, and then I'm just going to add salt and then just stir it in until it stops dissolving. A 1/4 cup of kosher salt. It's just regular, no name. You want this one because it doesn't have iodine in it. I don't want to waste salt, but I also want to put more than is necessary, because it's only if you still have grains of salt in the bottom that you know it's fully saturated. So I'm just going to keep stirring for like 5 minutes or so. Oh, and if you hear sports in the background, that's just because that's what's happening. It's dissolving pretty well, so I'm just going to jump the gun maybe and put 1 more 1/4 cup of salt in here. This container holds about 3 cups, so this is probably almost 3 cups of whey. It's been 5 minutes, and what's interesting is while I've been stirring, you can see that on the surface there's some curd buildup. This is almost like making ricotta. In ricotta, they take the leftover whey from cheese making and then they acidify it, and then more curds form from that whey. So this seems like the soy version of ricotta. There's so little though, so I don't really think we can do anything with it. So it has been 5 minutes, and there is still a little bit of salt not dissolved, but not a ton. So what I'm going to do is just skim off this stuff first. I'm not going to be too fussy about it, just skim off the surface. Should we do a soy ricotta taste test? With a... This looks like creamy cream. Woo! Whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, wow, the salt level is crazy. That's worse than ocean water. Oh, that's horrible. I need to go rinse my mouth. But underneath the saltiness, there's a mysteriously milky flavor to that. Like buttery, milky, not at all like soy milk. What in the heck did we just discover? Oh my goodness, you guys. This is so exciting. So like there's hardly anything here. And this is probably, I don't know, 1/4 of the total amount of whey produced. Maybe 20%. And it's so salty. But what if we used like an acid instead? Like instead of that salt? Would that make a difference? Would this same thing happen? I feel like we haven't answered as many questions as we've created more questions. Actually, I tried it with the leftover whey. Acid did nothing. And a reasonable amount of salt also did nothing. Only excess amounts of salt for disgustingly salty cream did anything. Oh well, if you're going to have highs, you got to have lows. That brine is salty, my friends. So I'm not going to put the tofu in for very long. I'm going to put it in for, I think with dairy cheese making, the rule of thumb is 1 hour in salt brine for every pound of cheese. As far as I can recollect. This being, 300 grams? That's not quite a pound. And it being tofu, and this being so freaking salty, I'm thinking 15 minutes. Okay, yes, that's what's happening. We're going to put this in 4. Oh, nice. It almost sinks, but not quite. So, sprinkle some salt on top, especially the exposed areas. So just the high points. Okay, we're going to wait for 15 minutes. Then, well, this is so fun. This series was the best idea ever, just for the sole reason that it's so exciting. All right, previously we'd done a salt crust. Is that a smart idea in this case? I don't know. I just do not. I feel like every 2 seconds I'm asking a question, there's like a fork in the road and we have to choose. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but I'm really bad at choosing. I'm the last person to figure out what to have on the menu. So when I went vegan like in 2011, that was the best thing that ever happened to me because finally I could choose the one thing that was vegan on the menu, usually French fries. And then I'm not holding up the group. I feel like we're fairly even there, but like this salt is so chunky. Will it really dissolve into the tofu surface? Is it enough this time? Like last time it was too much with the pistachios. This time, don't you know? Really trying to get the crevices. This cheese is not smooth. Right, let's get the faces. Indents, any crumbly indentations? Trying to get the salt in there. Because I feel like the next step that I'm doing, even though we've done it 2 times already, is the riskiest. Trying to dehydrate this at like a warm temperature so that we can speed up the aging process so that the microbes or the probiotics in there keep doing their thing, turning this tofu into a cheesy flavor. But that's also the temperatures that other like not so friendly bacteria, mold, fungi will also match. So that's why the salt is so essential. Then I don't want to put so much salt that the resulting tofu cheese becomes like unbearably, unsnackably salty. Okay, let's get this in the dehydrator. This way? Yeah, let's do it this way. No, the other one's going to be just as wide or wider, so it's got to be this way. See, every 2 seconds we have another choice. The 15 minutes are up and it's time to flip. So literally that just is what it sounds like. I'm just going to continue with salting the top. All of these tiny little variables I would like to test, but I'm only one person. So if any of you want to take this up, you know, make your own videos, tag me, let me know how it goes. It could be on Instagram, it could be here on YouTube. If you must, TikTok, I guess. I do have an account that I never update. So we've salted the top. We're going to wait another 15 minutes. Hey, Google, set a timer for 15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes. Starting now.
It's been a little over 15 minutes. I just got caught up with things. Some of the curds, it feels like it wants to like fall apart. So I'm going to get this in the dehydrator right away. It's dripping everywhere. Oh yeah, it's visually bigger. Here, let's show you. You see the difference? Not a full centimeter like longer this way, maybe a half a centimeter, but it's definitely taller. It's swollen a little bit from the salt brine. Put it back in the middle. Get in the middle, you. That's it. It's already set to 98 degrees. And then I'm gonna flip it like every hour or so. That's the plan. It's been 4 hours. I completely forgot about flipping them, but I'll do that now. I just rolled it. This one. See you when I remember. Between then and the next morning, I flipped it 3 times. Once end to end, and then with the larger face towards the fan, and then the other face. It has been nearly 24 hours, 23 and 20 minutes to be almost exact. Time to examine our cheese. Tofu cheese that was sprinkled with salt. Tofu cheese that was salt brined. What's the first thing standing out to you? The salt brine has seemed to dry on the outside a little bit differently. There's just a salt dust on the outside making it white. Oh, I just crumbled it. I just crumbled an edge. Should we do an impromptu taste test? It might be very salty. Yeah, I think I just ate salt crystals. Salt, a little bit tangy, a lot tangy actually. Am I tasting cheese? I'm tasting a woody kind of bamboo-like flavor. Despite my description, I don't find it unpleasant. It's actually kind of nice, but I don't want my entire cheese tasting like that. What's interesting is the faces, like the center face. That doesn't seem to have the salt dust. Same with this side. I'm seeing a lot of cracking. And I feel like if I broke this, it would break into the curd shapes. This is the salt sprinkled. And you can still see some large chunks of kosher salt, but mostly on the edges where I applied extra. There's no smell. Like when I'm there's no smell. But up to the nose, there's a little bit of a fruitiness and mild cheese funk. I wouldn't wear it, but it is a nice scent. This is a little bit, it's similar but less bright. More like, it doesn't smell like peach. But if lemon was on this side and peach was on that side, it's more towards the peach. Whereas this one I feel is more towards the lemon. I need to learn more about describing flavor notes or aroma notes. I used to work in a perfume store, so I have some knowledge of describing aromas, but all right, let's cut through the middles and feel how that feels like and see the interior. This feeling is very firm, but it has like a spring back to it. It's a little bouncy, kind of like one of those rubber bouncy balls, like the tiny ones, but maybe a bit firmer than that even. All right, let's get through. Ooh, this is tough. It squeaks as it goes through. Wow, this is resembling some of the smoked tofus that are on the market right now. Let's feel the middle with a salted finger. Ooh, do you see that? Let's get closer. Can you get closer? It does have that smoked tofu texture where it's, wow, I thought it would be crumbly on the inside, but it's not. The curds have locked together quite well. I really want to try that. Give the center a sniff. It's even more of that bright, slightly leaning on the lemony side of aroma. I have to be clear. Like when I say lemony, it's not really like lemons. And when I say peachy, it's not really like peach, but on the spectrum between the two scents. Let's get into the salt brined cheese, soy cheese. Okay, I'm getting resistance, but not the same squeak that I felt in the beginning. Oh, this one's a lot different. Look at I don't know if this appears on camera, but the color of the tofu is different. So this one here is a little bit more tan, and it's not consistent throughout. I hope you can see that. It's a little bit more like whiter in the middle. These are like individual curds, and in the middle of each curd it's a little bit more whiter, and on the edges it's a little bit browner. This is the same, but a little bit lighter. The scent difference has disappeared. I feel like in this one I'm actually smelling more of that fresh tofu scent. On a separate note, I don't think I should have been putting this knife in the steamer because the handle is getting a little bubbly. The plastic is flaking off in layers. I don't recommend. Anyways, let's get into some taste tests. So I'm just gonna cut a piece from each one. Did you hear that squeak? Try not to get salt on the face. So I'm putting it on the side. Just by the way, I did actually weigh the blocks before we got started here this morning. The salt sprinkled was 164 grams, and then the salt brined was 196. And then let's get into the taste test. Let's go for salt sprinkled first. I don't know what to say. It's salty on the rind. It's a good amount of seasoning, not too salty. And it's pretty bland at first. And while you're chewing it, at the end, that's when the tang comes out, the sharpness. You have notes of bamboo and green tea. It doesn't taste like tofu, but it definitely feels like tofu. It's a little bit savory, just a little though. So overall, if you take the whole bite with the rind and the interior, it's too dry. I was gonna say it's unpleasant, but I'm chewing it now and it's pretty good. Like I would eat that as a snack. Then I'm like a mega tofu lover, so. Let's try this one. Again, I'm gonna go in tasting with the rind. Very similar. It's more salty. Next time I would soak it in the salt brine for less time, I think. But let's just taste the center without the rind. The texture is better. It's more well seasoned in the center. I think it's perfectly seasoned. The tang is right up front or close to up front. It tastes pretty good. I feel like it doesn't taste as funky though. It's certainly less dry, less crumbly, more like that super pressed tofu texture. It is pleasant, but at this point in time, I would hesitate to call it cheese, you know? It just doesn't have those flavor or textural qualities. Except for maybe this one, it's kind of crumbly like feta. Like the texture really does remind me of feta, but this one, the texture really just reminds me of very pressed tofu. So I'm gonna let these age even more. I feel like it's not snack plate worthy yet, unless you were really hungry and really desperate. Am I gonna trust that this is salted enough? No, I'm not. For one set of halves, I'm going to trust that it's salted enough. For the other set, I'm gonna brush on a little leftover whey and then sprinkle a little salt, I think. At this point, I already have way too many variables I want to test. Like, what if we press the curds at room temperature for a shorter time? Could we get more flavor development in a shorter stretch of time? Or maybe I should stop trying to speedrun cheese. On a different note, I want to change the soy milk composition. Can I add a high-fat nut and a little sugar to mimic the macros of dairy milk even more? Or go super fatty? Crank up the sugar? Why not? Plants have it all. How about yogurt cheese? Remember when we made soy yogurt and it turned into like a solid block? If you don't, you can check out the video now, linked in the description. Or instead of cotton-style curds, do a silken tofu version instead. There's just too many things to try, so tell me what you're most interested in seeing or what other ingredients you want me to cheese. As for these babies, will the flavor evolve even further? Most likely. Improve? That's to be seen, so make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications because I'll only update you when there's a big enough change to justify interrupting your life. But while I'm waiting for your comments, this black sesame isn't gonna cheese itself. And when that video comes out, I have a little update from last year's stretchy mozzarella-like white sesame curds. That should be next on the series. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, my friends. I really appreciate you watching this extra long video. Keep my tofu cheese in your prayers, and bye for now.